LunchTalk Live. I am joined by my special guest, Laurie Ann, and I'm going to see if I can do this right. Murabito.
You got
She
it.
said, say it real fast. All right, we're going to get into some awesome stuff in regards to public speaking. We know how much this is a big topic for you guys. We know that you love it. So we're going to be back in about 30 seconds, and we're going to get right into it. Again, welcome. Another LunchTalk Live right here. Donnie, hit it. All right. Thank you so much, Donnie, for that. A round of our guest, Laurie Ann, Donnie. He's working on it. He's trying to get he's working up there with the sign in the crowd going. So, Laurie Ann, you and I have been talking for a couple months now, right? Trying to get this worked out. Yeah. And so it seems like you're about as busy as I am in getting it worked out. So I'm really glad that you're here. All right, you guys, if you know the deal, if you are watching live, drop a hashtag live in the chat. Let us know that you're there. If you're watching later on a recast or replay, just hashtag replay and let us know. Here's the deal. Today is a learning day. Anytime we have someone like Laurie Ann, you're a best-selling author, award-winning public speaking coach. You've got a great history and looking at this 20 plus years in the game. And we're going to talk a little bit about an award-winning. Is that right?
Yes, that's a fun story.
Yeah, so I definitely want to get into that. But here's the deal, you guys. We're going to get into some topics, but your opportunity to ask questions. So by all means, dive in, ask questions, let us know, and let's get into it. So real quick, let's get to meet you. Talk to the audience. Tell us, how did you get this place? Tell us your story. We definitely want to share that with us.
Okay, so first off, I am a reformed, painfully shy girl who accidentally became a professional speaker, and that's a story for another time. But I was a speaker in the leadership and corporate engagement arena, and I just kind of like at one point I got tired of hopping on airplanes, and somebody actually sent me a text that said, "Laurie Ann, do you help people write speeches?" And I thought, well, I didn't, but let me talk to you. And I fell in love with the process of helping her. And after her first presentation that she gave, she got referred to 2 other audiences to speak to, and she walked away with 3 full paying clients. And to me, that was a home run. So now today, I actually help people use speaking as their best form of marketing, because it really is your best form of marketing. So I'm really excited to share with everybody what I've been doing for the past 20 years.
Absolutely. And I agree with you 100%. Would you consider what we do here from a podcast perspective? Would you consider this a form of public speaking?
Hell yeah.
Okay, good. Cause that's what I mean, I'm going to tell you this. I would love to be able to speak on. I've done things before. I've obviously my personality, being on stage, doesn't really bother me. It does prior. Once I'm on stage, it really doesn't mess with me too much. But always prior, like I'm a kind of person.
That's okay.
Before this show, I'm usually nervous.
Always.
Every week, always. Before I go to conferences, my team will tell you this, and my wife has seen this for years. I'm sick, like sick for like a day or two.
I get it.
Just totally nervous, right?
That's normal.
How have you dealt with this? Is this normal? Does it go away?
First off, no, it doesn't go away is the short answer. And also one of the things that I tell my clients is make friends with the nervousness.
Okay.
because that's just normal. I mean, if you weren't nervous, here's what the nervousness actually is. It's your heart rate increasing, it's your blood pressure increasing, your breathing increases, and guess what? You are ready for anything that happens because speaking is a lot of improv. I get nervous too. If I didn't get
Okay.
nervous, that might bother me actually, because then I'd be like, what, am I off my game or what's going on?
Right. Okay. Okay. Good. Because I
But
mean,
here's the good thing. Let me
No,
just
go
share
ahead. Go
something.
ahead, please.
Yeah. So how to get over that nervousness is actually when you know what you're going to be saying. So, for example, we also should probably talk about like knowing. I got like
Okay.
some
So
things to say.
a little bit of preparing. I actually took a little professional criticism from a very good friend of mine who I value his opinion, and he said, it feels like you've been a little rushed lately. I'm like, I am. It doesn't feel like it. I have been. So I took the time, and although we've talked, you and I, a few times, I took the time for an hour, and I prepared and I did a little research, a little more research on you, and to have some great topics. So I am not feeling as
Right.
sick. You mentioned that.
Good.
Yeah.
And that's what happens when you already know what you're going to talk about. Like the clients that I work with, when we're crafting a presentation, I I'm a big fan of you memorize your beginning. Now there's a lot of
Mm,
people out there who say don't you shouldn't memorize because it sounds too canned. And I completely disagree with that. When you know exactly what you're going to say for the first few minutes, you just kind of like you exhale, those butterflies go away, that nervousness goes away. So I'm a big fan of memorizing the beginning and the ending. And we could
that
talk about
that's
why the ending
no
also
that
later.
makes such a good point. I've heard, and I think a lot of times in telling a compelling story, I've read and learned that a lot of times the way that you're supposed to start is you start, and it's like a good movie or a good show. To me, I look at I look at uh, let me stop for a second. I'm gonna go back. There was an interview done with ACDC sometime back, and they had one of the interviewers had made a comment and says, do you guys ever get tired of playing the same sound? Like all of these albums, platinum recording, all these top charting albums, but they all seem to have the same sound. Like, at what point are you guys going to change it up? And one of the artists said, well, they continue to sell, they continue to go platinum. Why are we going to like mess up the system? And I laughed about that because it's funny. A lot of times I think we as individuals think we have to reinvent ourselves too many times, when in reality we just need one good compelling story that is who we are, because you can't make up more stories from the past, right? You have your story, how you got here, and
Mhm.
really you start with a good ending to hook, and then you get into it. Is that right? This is what I've heard.
Yes. And I also want to make another point about what you're talking about. And I'd like to ask this with a question. Do you have a favorite
Okay.
movie? What's your favorite movie?
Oh, okay. I would say this. I have a lot. I
Okay,
have a
just give me
lot.
one of them.
Yeah. So I'll tell you one of my all time favorites is Godfather. I just
The Godfather.
I
Okay. And
love it.
anybody who's watching, either you're watching it live or watching on the replay, let me know what your favorite movie is. Now, and the next question is, how many times have
It's
you seen that movie? How many times have you seen that?
over and over. And I'm the kind of movie
Over,
watcher. That's right.
mhm,
That once I watch a
over
movie
and
and I
over
love it,
again.
I will watch it over, even though I know the ending. You're right.
That's the same thing with speaking. When you tell the same story over and over and over again, you get really good at telling that story again and again and again. And in the world of speaking, you also get known for that story. So there's some stories that I tell, and I've walked into conference halls and people have walked up to me and said, are you going to tell like this particular story? Are you going to do this thing that you do on stage?
You
And it's
know,
like, yes, I
you know
am.
what? That is such a good point. That happens in uh when have you ever watched I call this a man circle. Okay. Have you ever watched guys get together, and then you know how it seems like when I've noticed when women like to gather and sit down, or talk, they typically find a place and they get comfortable and they have a conversation. Men tend to stand and build this little thing called a man circle. And then another guy or two will come in and you'll watch the circle expand. And before you know it, you see like this pretty large man circle. And if it gets too big, it splits. Like cells, they just split and then it becomes multiple man circles. What's funny is in these types of gatherings, there's usually a person that's good at storytelling. I have a tendency of being that person that I enjoy that arena, and I love telling. You're right. I never thought about this, Laurie Ann, but you'll have a story, and a new person comes into that circle that hadn't been in that circle before, and someone's like, "Oh, tell that story of when," and then you tell it again, and everybody hears it and enjoys it, right? And it's usually something that happened to me that was embarrassing.
Yeah, and people love hearing those stories over and over again. So this might be an interesting spot to tell that story about why you called me having an award-winning smile.
Yes,
because this story actually just shares a little bit of my personality, and you get to know me as a human being versus like, here's all my achievements and reading off my resume. When I was like 9 years old, I won first place in a smiling contest. Now, I've never had braces or anything like that, but I won first place in a smiling contest. And I actually had, and the prize was candy. So I think it was sponsored by a dentist, or they didn't want me to win 2 years in a row. But the funny thing is I have shared this. I know it's hilarious. Like there's a smiling contest, but apparently like that actually gave me evidence or proof that I had a nice smile, and I've been smiling ever since.
That's neat. That's pretty cool. So then you found yourself in a position where someone says, "Hey, can you write something for me? Can you help me here?" Then all of a sudden you're getting into speaking. When did you know that the aspect of coaching and helping people through this process was something that you wanted to do? Because now this has become your business today, which is helping individuals understand the power not only of the skill set of public speaking, but how they can create revenue doing that, right? And I want to get into it. You have a couple topics here. We talk about the benefit of public speaking and what it's going to do for your business. And I know that this is individuals. This is an entrepreneur. This is someone,
careerist
in a sales role. Okay, there you go. So this can
everybody. It increases your brand awareness.
I love it. Absolutely. Yeah. And I am huge on personal brand building, regardless of whether you are running your own company or working for an organization. I think it is absolutely imperative, especially today and going forward. The other thing we talked about, or you have on there, is where to find public speaking opportunities. We're going to get into that a little bit and understanding how to target the right audience. Also, what to say to decision makers so that you can get booked easily. So which one do you want to start with first?
Well, which one interests you the most? I mean, I can talk about all these topics for hours. You know what? I will kind of address like how I got here. I have been coaching for over 20 years as a master coach. I was coaching leaders and executives, and then so it was actually very natural for me just to kind of like move into the entrepreneurial area and work with entrepreneurs to teach them how to use speaking to really organically position themselves as the expert, organically grow their email list, organically just build up that awareness, and attract the right people along with pushing away the wrong people. Because when you're speaking, it's really like, it's not like a commercial, because the way that I teach people is I teach people how to give lots of value, but I have a secret sauce that sort of helps convert the audience. Because all of your presentations, whether it's 5 minutes, 15 minutes, or an hour, should always follow the 3 C's, which is compelling, captivating, and most importantly, converting.
Okay. Compelling, captivating,
converting.
Awesome. So,
and if the audience has any questions, you guys just like type in.
Absolutely.
Let me know what you are interested or
Drop it in. That's absolutely right. Drop it in the chat. Let's get into this and let's pick her brain because this is good. So when you talk about the benefits of how this will increase the bottom line in an organic fashion, I have some notes on this as well, and I want to give you the opportunity to talk about this. So help us understand how you share this with others when you say this.
when I about the benefits of speaking.
The benefits. Yep. Benefits
There are so many benefits to speaking. I mean, just from the little bit that I just shared about organically positioning you as the expert, allowing you to share your expertise, to monetize your intellectual property, to, like if you work for an organization, most people, like let's just go back to that crazy stat that 95% of the people are afraid of public speaking, which I actually think is a bunch of bullshit, actually. I think somebody just made it up and we all just kind of like went along with it. I've yet to find the study, but I think, like, let's just say that it's a true fact, then that means that if you do raise your hand to speak at a meeting, to speak at a conference, you're going to stand out. As a matter of fact, it sort of reminds me of one of my clients, and he works in healthcare, and he works in cardiac ultrasound and pediatrics, but he has an adult background of cardiac ultrasound, and he got asked to speak because he's got this adult and congenital, like background. And so he turned to me and said, Laurie Ann, should I do this? And I said, absolutely, because this is just going to increase your brand awareness and other hospitals are going to see you speak on the regular so that if they ever need people are going to reach out to you to ask you like, hey, we've got an opening and we want somebody like you in our hospital. So that's just brand awareness. Traffic. If you're an entrepreneur, if you are speaking at a conference and you are speaking, like, let's just say at a breakout session and there are multiple speakers, your audience member is actually going to check you out because they're deciding which room should I go into. Besides, I'm interested in the topic, but somebody else is over here. So you're going to get traffic to your website. You're going to get social followers, increasing your email list, which I've mentioned a couple of times. You can get video, photography, testimonials. I mean, the list really does go on.
So, one of the things that I've been talking about is and this is not something I'm making up, but when you look at the influencers right now in media, in business, the ones that are really innovating and paving the way, they say in similarity, they say this, and then they bring to our attention that right now, attention, especially in digital mediums like LinkedIn, attention is currency. And one of the things that I do when I speak with my clients, I explain to them that nothing has changed outside of the forum. When we would knock on doors, I remember at a younger age, I got into sales right away in radio advertising. I had to go to business. I didn't last long, or I didn't stay long because I realized I was young. And although it made sense to me, how was I going to work with individuals that were twice my age and explain to them that they needed to make this investment in marketing with radio, right? And I decided to give it a few more years before I came back into this arena. And I'm glad I did. I learned a lot. But in that process, my job was to go out there, knock on doors, meet people, get to know the business owners in my area, build relationships, and find out what their needs and problems were. Nothing has changed except today we have a digital medium that has increased our opportunity to grow our audience and create what I call a digital or I'm going to try this again. Digitization of reputation. All the guys in the office laugh when I try to say this because that's a word that I struggle with, but digitization of your reputation. Your reputation, Laurie Ann, my reputation in our professional field has been built way prior to social media. But today we have a forum like LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is giving us the opportunity, like right now, to have this conversation together and share with someone else. What is your thoughts on this in terms of of working with companies that you have been in the coaching, do you see the audience or the folks that you're working really grasping the concept that public speaking doesn't just have to be on a stage? It can be right here on a screen.
First off, I think a lot of people just feel uncomfortable on camera. And, but all of those big influencers, they all started with their very first time. I heard Gary Vaynerchuk actually tell a story about his first time doing a live. He was just like, I don't want to talk to myself. So he put a teddy bear on the other side of the camera. Like, whatever you have to do, even as a professional speaker, when I first started my podcast, I have a walk-in closet. I'm talking amongst my clothes and sweaters and jackets. And I was just like, why can't I do this? So I was just like, all right, it's just because my podcast recording muscle is not strong enough. I did. I got a picture of a girlfriend of mine, and I just talked to her. So
that's interesting.
There's so many different forms of speaking, and I think that you bring up a really good point, because I think speaking needs to be redefined. It's not always to a crowd of people. It can be just sharing your elevator pitch to one person at a networking event. It can be just like, let me go live here in LinkedIn or on YouTube or any other social media platform. Let me share a tip, one easy short tip with the audience. And here's what I tell people, like, if you don't like it, just record it and see what happens. If you really don't like it, you can always delete it. But get it out there. Like, everybody starts with their very first live, their very first video. I actually have my very first live, my very first Facebook Live is still out there, and I won't take it down. And the reason why I won't take it down is because I tell people, like, go watch that. And I was a professional speaker. It's very flat. Like, I'm like very like still and like almost frozen in place. And the only thing that's moving is my mouth. And it's still very like, you can't even feel my personality, but I leave it up.
Totally.
Like, I've changed.
Oh, I get it. We were doing Donnie and I, we started on the back of my porch with a cell phone, and I was having a cigar and opening up a new bottle of whiskey, and I was just hanging out and having a conversation, talking about this new whiskey I was trying, because I love whiskey and cigars, and everybody that knows me knows that. And I was just enjoying that and sitting on the porch with a cell phone, and I was just talking to myself. And then some people would jump in. You have to exercise that muscle. You mentioned that. And I think, you had mentioned the organic aspect in authenticity. Would you say that a lot of people are too busy trying to be somebody else when they speak instead of being themselves and being authentic?
I think that does happen, but it's also, I think, something that just naturally happens whenever we're trying something new. I mean, one of the biggest things that I tell clients and my students is that bring your personality. Your personality is what people are going to fall in love with. If they don't resonate with you and your personality, they're just going to move on. But no big deal. But just be you. But I know that that's always sounds so hard, because I'm going on my first Facebook Live and there's just like so much stress and tension. So like, it's easier said than done, but just get your first one out of the way, and you'll notice that the world did not open up and swallow you whole.
That's exactly right. And I'll tell you what, the youth coming up today, this is something that they get. They're already growing up in an environment where I'm watching two of my younger kids have built their little YouTube channels, and they're making these shorts. And it's really fun watching them do this. And I know that, one of my daughters she's a little shy in the process. One of my sons has got no issues with it, having fun, but they're getting this. And this is one of the things that we like to make sure that our clients understand is, regardless of whether you're comfortable or not with a lot of this is where gathering attention is going. This is how we're going to be speaking to the market. The recent target audience for TikTok that was just a couple of years ago in a young group has now switched from 35 to 55. The largest growing group on TikTok is between 35 and 55. This is the majority of your decision makers, middle and high management, the people that are spending money. It used to be a platform for silly videos and people doing drunk things and sharing dancing videos. It's not that anymore.
Yep.
And it's gaining attention, and it's quickly going after what I think is YouTube, right? They are obviously going after the YouTube market. Even to the point now where they just recently released notes that they're starting to monetize. So people can get paid almost to the cent, the same amount that people get monetized on YouTube, and YouTube is making millionaires. So, I mean, think about where we're going. You and I, if we were to go back 20, 25 years ago, we would have never seen this coming,
No.
right? Never in our life seen this coming, but it's happening now. So what you share, I think, is absolutely imperative. What you teach, I think, it's just, to me, I think it's critical and crucial. I don't think that public speaking is an option. My personal opinion, learning how to speak and how to do it publicly, I believe is a necessity if you want to grow in any level of business. If you're in the business realm, B2B or B2C, I think it's a necessity. It's a basic skill, like learning how to write an email.
It's a communication skills. You've got to learn how to communicate to be in this world. I think it was Warren Buffett said, learn public speaking, you will increase your value by 50%. And I couldn't agree more. As somebody who, when I said that I'm a reformed shy girl, I mean, I couldn't even make eye contact with people. That's how bad that's how shy I was. And to go from that to being on stages, and now I'm live streaming. So I'm like that evidence that you can do this too. And
That's awesome.
It just takes your first one.
So we got a question here, and the question is, what was your worst speaking experience?
Oh gosh, I don't know. My worst, as a professional speaker, I always look at it. It's my job to make the meeting planner, to whoever brings me in, look like a rock star. So if things didn't go my way, if I walked into some place,
so it's my fault.
No,
is that what you're saying? So if this goes wrong, you know what, there is something to be said about that, obviously, right? If the forum is set up wrong, it could really mess you up. But give us one of those. Give us one that just went wrong.
This one didn't go wrong because it didn't happen. I was booked to speak with another company, and it was a Human Resource Association's their annual fall conference. And I had even met with this other company, and we were going to make sure that my presentation just blended with their presentation. We were going to really wow the audience. And when it came down to signing my contract, she told me that she was like, well, I can't sign it, and I'm too busy to write you a testimonial. That's what she told me. She was too busy to. So this was not a paid event. This was I was getting paid in other ways. So I actually had to decline that event and quickly reach out to the president of the organization. So I share that story with people, because sometimes you do have to step down from an event. In this case, I was spending my day, essentially spending money to be at their conference, and she didn't want to, in exchange, write me a testimonial and refer me to other people.
That's not very nice. No, yeah, you gotta value your time just like just like anyone else would, right? So we talk about speaking opportunities today. How do you get in front of your target audience when it comes to public speaking?
Okay, so I tell people you always start with your warm market. Look at the meetings that you're already attending, the associations that you're a member of. Look at the conferences that you typically go to. Do you hang out in certain Facebook groups that have lives? Look at those, start with those, literally write down a list of all of those and reach out to them. That's how you get started. And when I say reach out, it's not a, hey, hire me, book me I'd be a great speaker for this particular conference. I believe more in let's open the door first to the conversation. So I like to, you find the decision maker, you know who it is, and you just ask them, hey, like, what's your process for finding and booking speakers? Just start there because you want to
start
open
with
the
question.
conversation. Yeah, you just want to start the conversation because they may say, well, they may tell you like, here's what our process is. We pick the topics for the year first. We pick the theme for the conference, and then we go out and we find speakers that like are in alignment with that theme or are in alignment with those topics. We ask our members, what do they want to learn this year? So the meeting planner, the conference organizer, whoever's in charge of finding speakers is going to let you know that. And so then you can say, well, I speak on, before I was in this particular market, I said I speak on leadership and corporate engagement. Oh, that would be a great topic for our spring conference, not necessarily our fall conference, but you have to open the door to the conversation. And I find it's just a little more engaging. It's not a hire me. It's a, hey, I'm super curious about your process.
That makes so much more sense. And I love that. It's not something that I've ever done. So believe it or not, I just never even asked anything like that. I have been asked before, and it's just come up and, hey, would you be willing to speak at our event or speak at a company banquet? And then sure, like, yeah, no problem. I'd love to help you out. But I've never actually gone and looked for it. So there's curiosity there to it. Because I love speaking. I love meeting people and I love being able to help. If I can in any way to help, somebody's company move in the direction that they need to. I know we have opportunities like this all the time with our company here. I'm sure they're tired of me getting on my soapbox and giving them trainings and coachings and speakings here. I'm sure they can go without it. Donnie's giving me a thumbs up. So he agrees. But it's really good advice. I love that. Now, when you talk about how you had made a comment to the fact that there's thousands of different opportunities.
7,500 speaking opportunities every single day. That's 7,500 speaking opportunities. Now, before these past couple of years, I used to say, divide that by 50, that comes down to about 150 opportunities every single day on average. Granted, no one's really going to a conference in Alaska. They're going to, Florida and California during the month of January. But 7,500. So now I actually tell people because the virtual speaker and the virtual audience is not ever going away in my prediction.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
That means that every single one of us has 7,500 speaking opportunities. So it's about finding the right audience. Once before, like I live close to Massachusetts. I mean, like you just have to like decide, like what's the circle that you're willing to drive and like start looking in that area also.
That makes a lot of sense. So I had put some topics down when someone's preparing themselves to get more into a public speaking forum or to share things with themselves. How do they create a compelling story? How do they hook somebody in those first 30 seconds, 60 seconds to want to listen to their story?
Of a presentation? Or
sure, like, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, two different things, like how to hook people into a story versus you're starting off your presentation. So I tell people, like, you never reintroduce yourself. Don't reintroduce yourself. Like, let somebody else introduce you. If somebody's not introducing you, still do not introduce yourself in the beginning, because the audience doesn't have a reason to even listen to you. In those first 30 to even just a couple of minutes, you have to give the audience a reason to put their phones down and lean into what they're hearing. So I tell people, you might want to you can start with a joke. You can start with a startling statistic, a quote. You can start with a story, but that story has got to be something that literally like grabs the audience and is like, oh my God, I need to hear this. Anything that gets the audience to like lean in, then that's when you can tell the audience about you. And I call it your authority section. You've gotten the audience's attention. Now you need to give them a reason to continue to listen to you. Why should I listen to you? Why should I listen to your advice that you're going to be teaching me later in the presentation? Should I pull out paper and pen and take notes? So that's like your first 5 to 6 minutes of a presentation. And that's how you get people to really stop what they're doing and really listen to you.
I love that. That is awesome. And it makes a lot of sense. It does. It makes a lot of sense. I've always felt, listen, if someone's already engaged with you, if you're at the table, if you have an opportunity to present, they already know your name. I don't think you need to sit there and
exactly
and go into it. John Maxwell talks about the differences between the tell me generation and show me generation. And I think a lot of us, especially if we're millennials and above, or excuse me, Gen Xers are above, the millennials have figured this out. But I think, if those of us that were born in the mid 70s, we've learned a skill set coming from a generation that had to sit there and they had to tell everything. This is who I am. This is where we came from. This is the company. This is how we got here. And so they go through a long process. And I think a lot of those have carried into with today's sales, market, general conversations. Is you want to link Google, and you're going to see all my different social media profiles. You're going to see YouTube pages. You're going to see articles I've been in, articles I've written, videos I've done. You want to get to know me. There I am right there. I don't believe, just like you're saying, I don't think we need to spend a lot of time explaining who you are outside of just grabbing the important details. And I love that, coming in with a compelling story and grabbing their attention as to why they want to listen to the rest of it. So in a way, you're kind of, that hook is either the end or the results, or like I said, like in a good movie, a lot of times they'll start off at the end where you see the main character in a, dire situation. And then it goes back and it tells you, 2 months ago, 2 weeks ago,
yes.
And it kind of, now you're hooked because you want to see what's going to happen.
Yes, absolutely. And the reason why we tell stories is because your audience or whoever's listening to you can put themselves in the story. They see it for themselves versus, here's something that I love to ask, you got kids, you've got kids. Do your kids ever say, hey, Daddy, tell me a bedtime statistic? No, they say, tell me a bedtime story. We've always loved stories. They're entertaining. And that's what meeting planners, conference organizers, that's what they're looking for. They want.
Can you share some statistics with us? I would really love to fall asleep from pure boredom. I think that's great. That actually brings me into one of my other questions I had for you. It's a slide, not the slide. Like when giving whether it's in a public speaking forum or when it's sitting with a potential client on the other end, how does one not bore the audience on the other side? Mm-hmm. When it comes to slides, I have a method, but it's that I think works. But I want to hear your professional.
So I think first off, a picture is worth 1,000 words. When I have slides that I'm using in a presentation, they have one purpose, and that is to keep me on track. I know exactly what I'm going to be talking about or what story I'm going to be telling when I see a particular slide. And if you do have a lot of words on slides, which I don't have a whole lot of words, you want to make sure it's minimal because you want the audience listening to you and not reading your slides, which also brings me to the next point. Don't read your slides because you should be educating and speaking to the audience. And here's a pro tip when you're using slides. You should know your slides. And put them in presenter mode so that you know what the next slide is. Yeah. So you can start talking about that next slide before you actually put the slide up. It's very slick.
I agree. And I think some of the challenges that I've come across, Laurie, and I'd love your opinion on this, is there are still some companies that want to see this pitch deck. Hey, send us your pitch deck. So far to this point, I've refused to do that. I won't send a deck out without my ability to speak on it, or at least I'll send them a video. Like I'll put together a Loom or something of nature where I'm presenting it and giving it to them, because I'm with you. The slide deck is not there to pitch. It's there to reinforce my story or reinforce the value of what it is that I'm offering to you as the business owner or the decision maker, or whatever the problem it is that you've asked me to come in and help you solve.
And then there's misinterpretations. Like, what if, whoever you sent your slides to, they're going to misinterpret, something that's on the slide based on their experience. And you don't want that. You want to be able to share with them real time. So yeah, I completely agree with not sending in, a pitch deck, because the way that you tell your story, the way that you explain it, your passion, when you're even in a sales presentation, a business presentation, you can't take that away, and you can't get passion from reading a bunch of words on a slide.
No, you can't. And today, I had this conversation with the team. I said, look, the way that we serve and help our customers, a lot of what we do can be done anywhere. That's not why they choose us. Why do they choose us? And those are the things that we need to remember. That's the value we give. And with our clients, we share them the same thing. Like, you are one of 5 or 10 or 2 or 200, just like you. There is something about your group, your team, your service, and what you do that is unique to you. And this is what we need to be focused on, because in the end, it's going to come down to how you are going to serve and how you can work with that potential customer on the other end. You and I both can be, right? You and I can be excellent speakers and have the same program and the same conversation, and both have zero flaws with that entire system. But the person on the other end is a decision on who they want to work with based on who they believe they can work with, who they can connect with. And that's why I tell folks, you just need to be authentic, be yourself, but find the value in you. Don't worry about what your competitors are doing.
100%.
Worry about them, right? Yeah. Worry about the little things, and all of a sudden the big steps seem to play out. If you just worry about, I love that Atomic Habits, the concept of just that 1%. Just do your little 1% every single day, and all of a sudden, before you know it, because you're always moving forward. And when you're always moving forward, at the end of the day, at the end of the month, the end of the week, end of the year, you're like, whoa.
Look at how far I've come.
That's right. Look how far we've come. So I want to open up some more opportunity here for questions that are watching right now live. If you have any other questions, let us know. I also want to give you an opportunity to get involved and be part of our community through joining our community text chat. We use this to send you out the links live to let you know what guests we have. It's pretty simple. 316-799-8052. If you want to learn more, you can text lunch. Wrong one. That's leads. That'll get you to a different. If you want to get on how to generate inbound and organic leads, you can type leads to 316-799-8052. Otherwise, just text us there. It's very private. I don't have your number when you do it, but you do join our community, and I can communicate with you and let you know what's going on. But most importantly, you find out about opportunities like this. I want you to join our community. Please do so. Let us know. And every time we have a guest and they're giving anything away or any opportunities for you to find out more, we share this within that community chat. So again, join us, hashtag lunch, LUNCH, and that is 316-799-8052. Join our community. I love to see that community grow, and I want to be able to offer you guys more and more each time. So I love doing this. Go ahead. Go ahead, Laurie.
I just want to point out what you're doing. You're really continuing and deepening the relationship with your audience after the engagement, after the live, after you're speaking in front of an audience. And that's what it's all about, is as the speaker, we're building that know, like, and trust, but anybody who wants to raise their hand and continue the relationship is going to sign up for those text messages. That's a great way to just keep deepening the relationship. And that's what you do after you speak. You give some sort of call to action to your audience so that they can continue to follow you, continue to learn from you, maybe even book a call with you.
Oh, absolutely. I'm a huge believer in organic inbound lead building. This is our platform of what it is. Teach. I think a lot of times in business, people spend time trying to push versus building relationships. And sometimes they take months, years, but they've never not paid forward. And to me, I've created some of the greatest relationships and friendships and everything else in my life through my work. Being in renewable energy now for 15 plus years, I've created some incredible relationships, and those relationships grow with me, and we do business with each other because they've gotten to know me and they trust me. And that's why even with this community, I really don't spam anybody on this. It's purely used to share this information and this information only. And I do that because I value that if they're going to connect with me, I'm going to keep my promise. Like, you're only going to get notifications when I go live, and you're only going to get notifications if you want to get into a different group that's going to share stuff with you. And if you don't want to, you don't have to. It's not a big deal.
Right.
Not going to bother me.
Right.
Yeah, right. I want you to come to me when you're ready.
Yes.
There's a couple stuff here. So I got one from DC says, how would you ensure key information is understood and remembered by the good question, Dave?
That's a great question. So if you're telling a story, you always want to make sure that you tell, here's why you're telling the story. So you're almost like connecting the dots, drawing a line from the story to the lessons that you want people to walk away with. Like if you happen to be, I'm just going to say, you're selling a product and you're telling a customer story who has used the product. The reason why I'm telling you this is because of X, Y, and Z, and making that lesson or the X, Y, and Z something that's really pertinent to the audience, to the person who you are probably maybe selling to or doing the demonstration for. There are other ways that you can make sure that people remember and understand, and it would all have to do with how you present it and pausing, because pausing is actually very powerful. You don't want to keep rambling on for the entire time. Pausing actually gives the audience or whoever's listening to you that space to think and space to answer questions that you might ask. So one way, if you're sharing something, you could actually tell people write this down. This is important. Write this down. Repeat it. Remember when we were talking about the 7,500 speaking opportunities? I said 7,500. Let me say that one more time. 7,500 speaking opportunities every single day. I was really emphasizing it. So I hope that helps.
No, I think that's great. I wrote some stuff down, and I love that. You're right. Pausing is good. Another question here: how do you keep from oversharing when telling personal stories? Let me see if I can get a stab at this. I can tell you right now, when everything gets awkwardly silent, you've gone too far. I'll tell you that right now, Sean. When it gets weird, you went too far. Laurie, tell us a better answer than that.
That's good. Well, hindsight is 2020, and just learning from our mistakes. Okay, I probably shouldn't have rambled on maybe that long. So I would always ask yourself, why are you telling this story? It's got to have a purpose. And in the speaking industry, we also say, don't let all the details get in the way of a good story. Does everybody need to know exactly when this happened, exactly how it happened? For example, I have a recent client who's a student that's in one of my programs, and he was talking about, well, I moved to Connecticut in 2000. And I said, people don't need to know that you moved to Connecticut in 2000. It could just be when I moved to Connecticut, I didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
Short and sweet instead of, so sometimes you got to I call it trim out the details.
I think what people I think what people fail to recognize is that their stories, like you said this before, you should know your stories. There's nothing wrong with that. There's an amazing book. What's the author's name? Pitch Anything. Incredible.
Yes.
I'm actually trying to get him on the show. But anyways, yeah, I think I can, but I'm working on it. But I love the way that he goes and he approaches how you come into this pitching opportunity. And for him, a lot of it is with stories. But one of the things that he talks about, and when you get into different areas of marketing or sales and you get to understand this, like there is nothing weird or odd about learning and creating a pocket full of stories
Yes.
and things to talk about, because you're going to need them. It's when you're dealing with communicating and with people, you're dealing with so many different types of personalities. You need to be able to engage them and get their attention. And everyone has a different way. There's all these different personality types, and depends on, the way that they function in their brain and all this. There's a lot of good stuff that comes to this, but to get to the simple aspect of it is, it's not weird. Like,
No.
have your stories, talk about, and there's timeline stories. I have stories in my profession. I have stories about being a parent. I have stories about being a husband. I have stories of failing. I have stories of succeeding. All of these are stories that I want to tell over and over and over again. Like you said, it's like watching a good movie. You watch it over, over, over again. You don't get tired of it.
And stories sell. Stories influence, stories entertain. One of the things that I, like, we're all in sales, whether you have a sales title or not.
Everybody's in sales.
We're all in sales. And
Yeah,
so the stories that you're telling should actually be addressing the objections of the person that you're speaking to. Whether somebody says, well, like, I really just don't know if I have enough time for something like this. And then you would go into a story that talks about maybe like a client success who doesn't have time, who didn't have time when they first hired you, but this is what happened when they devoted the time to learning how to speak.
Love it.
Obviously,
Laurie Ann, yeah. Oh, I bet. Listen, we want to hear from you. And again, if you're watching this on a replay, or drop a hashtag replay live, drop a hashtag live. Let us know you're here. We're grateful that you are here. Thank you again, Laurie Ann, for being a part of LunchTalk. So this particular show, this is part of our Contagious Leadership series. I want to talk to you more about this. I'd love to invite you to come back on and be a guest, be a co-host, for the simple fact that, looking at the things that you've done, there's a lot here and we didn't even get into it, but you've spent a lot of time in leadership, and leadership and mentorship is a big passion of mine. And it's something that we do here within our organization, and we're trying to create and build the next generation of leaders and bring that mentorship back into the workplace, because it just doesn't exist anymore. Not like it used to, but that has a lot to do with the way we change careers, but it can be done. And I just think we have to step up and start to create it. So this is a passion area for me. I'm hoping right now, you guys, if you're watching, that you got some value out of this. I did. But I always come with a pen and paper and ready, right? And so if you want to get a hold of you, Laurie Ann, talk to us. How do they reach you, and where do they connect with you to get to know about you?
Well, one of the best places you can find out lots of information is on my website, which is speakandstandout.com. I also host a weekly podcast called Be in Demand with Laurie Ann. And I see a lot of LinkedIn questions here. People that are watching from LinkedIn, please feel free to connect with me here on LinkedIn as well. And if you're watching, if you were watching here live, thank you so much for joining us. But if you're also watching the replay and you've got a question, don't hesitate. Please feel free to reach out to me.
Absolutely. So thank you guys so much. Again, next week with another great guest, and same time, Central Time. I hope you guys are having a great summer. Thank you for being patient while Donnie and I had a few weeks off and getting stuff back on the podcast train. So we're back. Laurie Ann, thank you so much for being here. We're going to share some of your information once we're done, and we'll drop it in. So you guys, thank you so much. Have a blessed day. Enjoy the rest of your week and let us know what you think and what you would like us to get into. As always, we want to know more. And if you want to be a part of the community, again, 316-799-8052. If you are not in North America, sorry, this won't work. If that's the case, do us a favor, drop your comment, like give us a thumbs up or tell us you want to be a part of our email version of this and let us know in the comments. We have finally created a way to communicate with you through email, and it will only be the same way we do this, letting you know when we go live and letting you know when we have free content for you to take advantage of. Have a great rest of your day. God bless. Talk to you later. Donnie, get us out of here.